The FBI wiretapped his phones. The FBI bugged his hotel rooms in cities across America. The FBI mailed him a letter, anonymously, telling him to kill himself before he received the Nobel Peace Prize. His name is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It is August 28, 1963. 250,000 people have gathered on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. Standing at the Lincoln Memorial, a 34-year-old Baptist minister from Atlanta lifts his voice, sets aside his prepared notes, and speaks from memory. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. The crowd roars. The world watches. And in Washington, just blocks away, the FBI is already taking notes. His name at birth was Michael King Jr. He was born on January 15, 1929, in Atlanta, Georgia, the son of a Baptist preacher, the grandson of a Baptist preacher. In 1934, his father traveled to Germany and was moved by the legacy of Martin Luther, the reformer who challenged corrupt power from within the church. He came home, renamed himself, and renamed his son. Martin Luther King Jr. entered Morehouse College at 15 years old. He earned a divinity degree from Crozer Theological Seminary. He earned a doctorate from Boston University in 1955. In December of 1955, a seamstress named Rosa Parks was arrested in Montgomery, Alabama, for refusing to give up her bus seat to a white passenger. The black community of Montgomery launched a boycott of the city's bus system. It lasted 381 days. Walking to work, walking to church, walking in the rain. At the center of it was a 26-year-old minister who had just arrived in town. The boycott worked. The Supreme Court ruled Montgomery's bus segregation unconstitutional, and a movement had a face. In 1957, Dr. King co-founded the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, the SCLC. He traveled constantly. He spoke constantly. He was arrested more than 20 times. In April of 1963, he was jailed in Birmingham, Alabama, the most segregated city in America. In a jail cell, using the margins of a newspaper and scraps of paper smuggled in, he wrote one of the most consequential documents in American history, the letter from Birmingham jail. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. It was addressed to white moderate clergymen who had urged patience. It did not counsel patience. By the fall of 1964, Dr. King had been named Time magazine's Man of the Year. He had spoken at the March on Washington. He was 35 years old, the youngest person ever to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. On December 10, 1964, he stood in Oslo, Norway, and accepted that prize on behalf of the civil rights movement. What the world did not know, what even most of his closest allies did not know, was what had arrived in the mail at his home 19 days earlier. J. Edgar Hoover had run the FBI since 1935. He had survived every president. He had outlasted every attorney general. He had built his power on secrets and on fear. He called Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. the most dangerous Negro in America. In 1964, he called him publicly, in a press conference, the most notorious liar in the country. In October 1963, just weeks after the March on Washington, Hoover convinced U.S. Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy to authorize wiretaps on Dr. King's home phone and office phone. Robert Kennedy, the champion of civil rights, the man whose brother had met with King at the White House just months before, signed the authorization. It was a decision the Kennedy family would quietly wrestle with for decades. The surveillance had been approved. The FBI's program was called COINTELPRO, the counterintelligence program. Its stated purpose was to expose, disrupt, misdirect, discredit, and neutralize domestic organizations the FBI viewed as threats. William C. Sullivan, the FBI's Deputy Director of Domestic Intelligence, ran the campaign against Dr. King personally. The FBI bugged hotel rooms where King stayed in cities across the country. They intercepted his mail. They planted informants in his inner circle. They leaked stories to sympathetic journalists designed to damage his reputation. They tried to block him from receiving honorary degrees from universities. They tried to prevent a private audience with Pope Paul VI. They compiled and circulated dossiers on his personal life. And then they did something that had no precedent in the history of American law enforcement. On November 21, 1964, a package arrived at the home of Dr. and Mrs. King in Atlanta. It had no return address. Inside was an audio recording, recordings made from the FBI's surveillance of hotel rooms. And inside was a letter. The letter was typed. It was unsigned. It was written as if from another black person, disappointed in King. "You are done," it read. "There is only one way out for you. You better take it before your filthy, abnormal, fraudulent self is bared to the nation." The letter told Dr. King he had 34 days. 34 days before, the letter implied, the FBI would release the recordings publicly. The letter was urging him to kill himself. Coretta Scott King opened it. She read it first. Dr. King was away, speaking. When he returned and read it himself, he understood immediately where it had come from. He called it what it was, a government attempt to destroy him. 19 days later, he stood in Oslo and accepted the Nobel Peace Prize. He kept speaking. He kept marching. He did not stop. In March of 1965, Dr. King led marchers from Selma to Montgomery, 54 miles across Alabama, to demand the right to vote. State troopers attacked the marchers at the Edmund Pettus Bridge with clubs and tear gas. The images went around the world. Congress passed the Voting Rights Act of 1965. But Dr. King was moving beyond voting rights. In April of 1967, he stood at Riverside Church in New York City and delivered a speech called Beyond Vietnam, a time to break silence. He called the United States government the greatest purveyor of violence in the world today. Mainstream newspapers turned on him. The Washington Post, Time magazine, editors who had praised the dream now called him reckless. The FBI surveillance intensified. In early 1968, Dr. King turned to Memphis, Tennessee. 1,300 black sanitation workers were on strike, carrying signs that read simply, "I am a man." He came to Memphis to march with them. On April 3, 1968, Dr. King spoke at Mason Temple in Memphis. There had been a bomb threat on his flight. He was exhausted. He told the crowd, "I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we, as a people, will get to the promised land." The next evening, April 4, 1968, he stood on the second-floor balcony of the Lorraine Motel. He was 39 years old. At 6:01 p.m., a single shot rang out. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was pronounced dead at St. Joseph's Hospital at 7:05 p.m. James Earl Ray was convicted of the murder. In 1999, 31 years later, a civil trial in Memphis concluded that Ray did not act alone. The King family filed the suit. A jury agreed. The King family has never believed the full story was told. In 1975 and 1976, the U.S. Senate convened the Church Committee, officially the select committee to study governmental operations with respect to intelligence activities. For the first time, the American public learned what COINTELPRO was. The wiretaps, the bugged hotel rooms, the suicide letter. The committee found that the FBI had, in its own words, attempted to neutralize Dr. King through a systematic campaign of surveillance, harassment, and psychological warfare. Senator Frank Church called it a reign of secret government terror against American citizens. Today, the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial stands on the National Mall, 4 blocks from where he delivered the dream. His image is carved in stone. His legacy is taught in schools. His birthday is a national holiday. And the FBI's complete file on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., assembled over years of surveillance, is sealed by federal court order. It opens January 31st, 2027. That is less than a year from now. We do not yet know everything they knew. We do not yet know everything they did. Say his name, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.